Welcome to the Three Old Goalies podcast, a Delusion Group podcast. The Three Old Goalies podcast is brought to you by listeners and viewers like you. Please go find the Delusion Group supporters page on Patreon. Please give a like or a 5-star review on your favorite podcast service to help out the Three Old Goalies to be heard by more listeners. Music for the show is provided by the Floodgate Operators. You can find their music on Apple Music or on Spotify. As always, Three Old Goalies is not intended for goalkeepers under the age of 17.
All right, guys. Welcome back into another episode of Three Old Goalies, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a while. It's been a minute, as they say. We are thrilled that you've joined us, and we're looking forward to maybe getting these things going a little bit. Alex, your last name is pronounced Langen?
Langer, like Langer or Langer, either way is fine.
Okay, all right. And so we're joined, that's our special guest tonight. And then, of course, we're here with Greg Deutsch, Ryan, our producer, and Pat Johnston. And I'm sure Ryan has put all the sort of disclaimer stuff on the beginning of the podcast. So because we've got Alex and he's taken time out of his busy day to be with us, we'll get right into it. I assume everybody's doing okay. A lot to talk about, but Greg, we'll hand it over to you, and you can get going.
Rock and roll. All right. Well, again, thanks, Alex. Evie and Pat, just a little background on Alex. Grew up in Stuttgart, Germany. I believe he's about 30 years old. Interesting how he got to the U.S., which is going to be a great story, but played at a place we all know, Lenore Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
And I cannot wait to hear how he got there. And he only played his junior and senior year, which is even more interesting. So, right now he is the first team goalkeeper coach and director of goalkeeping for St. Louis City SC. So, again, Alex, welcome. And give us, who, as you grew up, why did you want to play goalkeeper? Who got you interested in it? And take us, this whole journey on Lenore Ryan, because the three of us know where it is. I'm not sure a lot of people do. It's not a Division I school. It's a Division II school, which is even more, I think unusual, just in the sense of most of the time it feels like the players that we've interviewed have been D1 players. So take it away, Alex.
No, absolutely. So obviously, why did I become a goalkeeper? I think it's pretty easy. Oliver Kahn. At the time, okay. Obviously, when I grew up in Germany, I definitely think the best goalkeeper that we might have ever had in Germany. And just growing up, my entire family was a soccer family. They were all Bayern Munich fans, and therefore, obviously, Oliver Kahn was the close goalkeeper to follow. I couldn't tell you why it was just the goalkeeper position, but I think just his playing style, his aura, his appearance, everything that I think he had, I think fascinated me for this position. I think from this moment, I've never played anything different. I know a lot of players, they try things out as maybe the field player first, as a center back, as a striker. I started a goalkeeper and I ended as a goalkeeper. So fell in love from the beginning and knew to stick with it and really stay with it. So obviously played for multiple club teams in Germany. As you mentioned, I'm from Stuttgart, so they're pretty much the two bigger teams. It's the VfB Stuttgart, they're still in the Bundesliga, and Stuttgart Kickers, they're currently in the 4th division. Always played for the Kickers, then walked through the pathways there. Story there, my grandfather was a referee for them. My uncle played there. My brother played there. So that's the reason why I ended up with them. Then finished my high school degree in Germany. And then it was a little bit okay, what pathway next? Moved to Erfurt. They played in the youth Bundesliga this time, in the eastern part of Germany. And they from there already had a pretty cool combination of education and soccer, like one of the fewer teams I would say like at this time in the youth system, where you could combine both. So I think it was an interesting opportunity there, just like to play in the youth Bundesliga system. And then like from there went to my first senior team back to Stuttgart, went to the second team of the Stuttgart Kickers. So most of the German pro or semi-pro teams still have second teams. So it's pretty common there. Played for them in the 5th division, then made a step to Aalen. At this time, the first team was in the 2nd Bundesliga. I moved to their second team. I was 20 at the time. I think this was the closest I would say that I've been to an actual professional contract. At this time, their number one was Jasmin Fejcic. He was national team goalkeeper for Bosnia. That was at the time 2014, the World Cup. So like he was actually with the Bosnian national team at the World Cup. And the third goalkeeper, Oliver Schnitzler, he was a U21 goalkeeper for Germany, and he actually like won the European Championship with Germany. So at all times when these both left with their national teams, I was the one that got pulled up from the second team. So therefore, I think I got a lot of exposure with the first team there, the 2nd Bundesliga, and obviously a great experience to play with the quality of the players that they had at this time. I think then in the end of this time of the year there, I think it was about time to actually make the jump to the first team. First team got unfortunately relegated. The coaching staff changed, management changed, and therefore my time ended there. And then I kind of knew that it's going to be a tough pathway to go like then towards the professional level in Germany. So I ended up in the northern part of Germany in Schönberg and Lübeck and played 4th division there for 3 years in total. And always still had to hope in a certain way, like maybe one good year, and then maybe you get picked up by a 3rd division team, what would be then pro soccer in Germany, or by the 2nd division team. But then at some point I figured out like it's going to be difficult. And then I just looked for like an alternative career pathway. 2 pathways open, like I already at this time did an undergrad degree in sports business management. So I already knew like that like education is going to be a really important part for me. And then the situation, United States scholarship, college soccer came around. And now obviously you guys ask me like, how did Lenoir-Rhyne University come around? So actually Jack Winter, the head coach at this time, was the first college and the first college coach that actually reached out to me. And from this moment, I think I somehow knew that LR and Lenoir-Rhyne in Hickory, North Carolina is going to be like my destination a certain way. Division 2 reason behind it, I came over to the SN2 with 24, so I already did the undergrad in Germany, and therefore I had only 4 semester eligible for the Division 2 level, because like with the timeline of Division 1 it didn't work out anymore because he studied too long in Germany for the Division 1 level. But for the D2 level I still had 4 semesters time. And therefore, like the Division 2 was a great opportunity, obviously, with me. Came then over in 2018 and started my MBA, my Masters of Business Administration for 2 years. So that's, I hope, like in a short but pretty efficient way, my story, how I came to the I came to LR.
Yeah, I was wondering, share with us, I saw your video as far as recruiting, and I would definitely tell you fellows it is pretty outstanding. How many other schools contacted you besides Lenoir-Rhyne? And what made you choose, Lenoir-Rhyne?
I would say around 15 to 20 other schools in total. I think was like that at least like where it was like, and they reached out initially, and then like with some of them it got a little bit like closer and a little bit farther in the process. The point for me was really like I had an agency. I think like most of the European players that come over to play college, like I think they come with a college agency. And one of the recommendations that my agent told me at this time, it was like the relation with your head coach is key to have a successful college career and a good time in college. And from the initial stage, like Jack Winter, who's currently the assistant coach at Stanford, just gave me this feeling from the first conversation. So I think this just like on the human being level, I think was really, really important for me. And then on the other side, like my family, huge US fans. So like we came over quite often when I was younger, New York, Florida. But I would say I've never really seen the United States, and obviously like Hickory, North Carolina, 50,000 smaller city town, however we want to call it. So it was in a certain way like a challenge that I wanted to go, and I wanted to really experience like what's the US like besides New York, besides maybe Florida, that obviously like is a destination for a lot of Europeans. So I actually want to see like what is the US like in a smaller town, in a smaller city, like how the people at. So yeah, I think this was
interesting.
Human being perspectives why I was setting for LR.
So Greg, can I ask a question?
Yes, jump in there, Pat.
Alex, when you said you came over to Lenore Rhine from Germany, you had an agent working for you trying to find you a college place, or
yes.
You said my agent.
Yes, so pretty much like what a lot of European semi-pro players do, they kind of like want to pursue the college pathway. So there's certain like college agencies, and they in a certain way, like again, I'm not sure like if agent is the right word for it. But in a certain way, they help you with the entire process, like on the one end is like the academic process, like how like translate your transcripts, submit everything to the NCAA. Are you going to be eligible? What's your eligibility look like? Is it D1? Is it D2? So like this is like one of the key aspects.
Right.
And then they in the end connect you to coaches. So in a certain way, they send the video that you guys have seen. They sent this video to Jack Winter, the head coach at LR. And then obviously like he went through the video and then said like, hey, I'm interested in this player, like can you guys connect us? So in a certain way, like that, I would call it maybe a little bit the middleman, to try to help you out on the academic pathway with eligibility, and then on the other side with connecting you with college coaches.
Okay.
So your career's over. Do you have any aspirations to try to go pro in the US at this point, or you're just going to move on?
Being honest, at this time, when I came over in 2018, I knew my career was done in a certain way, at least at the pathway to turn pro. I definitely came over to play competitive soccer. And when people know me, I think I'm really competitive and really ambitious. So like I really wanted to have a good 2 years of like me playing to my highest level and my highest qualities at college. But I knew that like after these 2 years, I'm going to be done playing college. I'm going to be done playing soccer. So I knew that there's going to be a different pathway after.
So you end up at UNCW with Coach Aidan Heaney. Mm-hmm. Did you even know about that school first? And again, what is the pathway to get the hookup to be an assistant coach there and a goalkeeper coach?
So pretty much when I was going into my last semester, or like in the last, I would say like 1.5 semesters at college and like finishing my MBA, I was obviously thinking about the next step in my life. Especially like for a lot of Europeans, it's always a pathway. Then like, okay, are you going to go back to Europe? You got your degree in the United States. What's the next step? Maybe in Germany. So like within these like 1.5, 2 years in college, I really saw the impact that Jack Winter, the head coach at this time, and overall the coaching stuff, the impact that these 4 guys had in my life. And then I actually thought like I think that's a pretty cool situation. And like being a college assistant coach, head coach at some point, whatever, I think you really have a huge impact on a young human being's life. And like Jack Winter always like phrased it, and I still believe it. Like he described like college soccer as the purest form of soccer. What I think is a quite interesting description towards it. So like within these like 1.5, 2 years, like I really kind of like, I don't want to say fell in love, but like really got like more into coaching. I did some private coaching on the side, did a little bit with the local club there in Hickory. And I just knew like I really want to try this out. So the next situation obviously was for me, okay, like 2 years of the degree. Then there's a certain situation when you finish your degree as an international in the United States, you can apply for an OPT. That basically gives you a 1-year working visa that's dependent on your degree. So then it started for me like this application time. So I sent out, I would, not lying, 100 to 125 emails to all D1 schools out there. And Aidan was one of the 2 that actually got back to me with you to Wilmington.
That's great because he won't answer my emails, that son of a bitch.
Who was the other one? Alex, who was the
Presbyterian. Ralph college got back to me. Yeah. So it was interesting. Like I got Aidan's email, and obviously like with like Hickory, North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, I knew a little bit of it. A lot of people, like we had 2 or 3 players in Hickory that actually came from Wilmington. Therefore, I had a little bit of an idea about the city. But yeah, in the end, I'm not sure it was a coincidence, but like, yeah, Aidan was one that actually said, hey, Alex, like I know about your visa situation. That might be difficult at some point because, again, you have this visa for only 1 year, and not a lot of universities actually pursue to sponsor someone or try to kind of organize a green card or a working visa. Like, not a lot of universities actually do that. So he said, like, Alex, I can give you a chance for a year. And pretty much then you have to figure it out. And then, like, I drove down there, met Aidan, met Sean Addison, Alex Nelson, his assistant coaches at the time. And within like 2 days, like, I stayed there. Like, I just really fell in love with Aidan in a certain way. Just like, I think, like, an incredible human being, and what a character and what a coach. And then obviously Wilmington is like a really beautiful, really beautiful spot on earth.
Yeah.
So yeah, within these 2 days, I knew like that this is the next step for me to take.
So EV, you trained Aidan. Where did you train Aidan? And he played. Did he get an MLS contract or?
Yeah. I trained Aidan at Greensboro Dynamo for 2 years before MLS started, and then Marcia was actually his agent. Going into the MLS, and of course she was negotiating with a single entity, so she got $50 more than they were offering, and but I mean, so and Alex had actually asked us about that before you got here. Is that's and I 2 college send out 120 emails and 2 college coaches respond.
Yes.
Okay. And Greg Deutsch and I talk about this all the time, that most college coaches are lazy bastards.
Yeah.
Are. Yeah. So I'll just.
Again, I obviously would say, I think like my situation with being international definitely played a role in it. So I knew this from the beginning because like I knew that it's going to be really difficult to get into college coaching, especially at this time. Obviously, it was like then end of 2019, beginning of 2020. Yeah, I think it plays a little bit of a role with the international situation.
That was a tough time for the sport, just in general.
It was, yeah.
Did you get in with Aidan before COVID?
And pretty much around COVID. So when it just came around, so like pretty much like I finished my degree, obviously quarantined with my current wife in Kansas with the family there. And yeah, then I came back to Hickory for 4 weeks to finish the degree online, and then started in Wilmington in June, July, and obviously like a huge part of like the let's call it the package or the deal that like as a young college coach you get was camps, and obviously camps were canceled.
Right, everything shut down.
So how we had to get started, and just kind of like protocols, masks, like group gatherings, not gatherings. So it was quite interesting, and I just like got straight into it because it was my start of college coaching. And in a certain way, just had to deal with it. And then obviously season got canceled, season got pushed back. Yeah, it was quite interesting. That's for sure.
Now, I don't think you know this, but he works for the Wilmington Hammerheads youth organization. Mm-hmm. And Alex, we have on the program one of the people who were there when it was first started with EV.
That's right. Founding equity owner of the Wilmington Hammerheads. Not much equity, and didn't find a whole lot. So, but yeah.
No, what a club! Like they just get a new facility, I think, right now.
Yeah,
I think they're working on the Cinco in Cinco, I think, soccer park and complex. I would have loved to actually see it time when I was there, because the time I was there was like used some like construction generators for light in the evenings to actually do my goalkeeper sessions with the guys. Yeah. But I think they actually like, it's still a beautiful place out there. So like I really enjoyed it. Like just like the night sky there when you have sessions in the evening, it's like absolutely it's gorgeous. So it's a beautiful place. But yeah, no, Wilmington Hammerheads, and like Carson Porter is obviously the club director currently, and like I still a really good relation with him. Like he helped me out there a lot and like gave me this chance as a young coach to straight away start as director of goalkeeping. So no, pretty cool place.
So EV, are you still part of the ownership group of the Wilmington Hammerheads?
No. I lasted 2 years.
Okay. Hey, was that the club David Irving ended up
at?
Yes.
Dude,
good job, Pat.
I played for that guy for a couple years.
Yeah.
And Brian Japp and Brian Japp, Alex, this was a center back of mine, homeboy of mine. We grew up in South Florida together, and so we played for him for a Miami team called the Miami Freedom.
Okay.
And one day we just decided we were going to count how many times he said the F word at halftime. 91 times.
91 and
Did you guys have a longer halftime than we do now, like longer than 15 minutes? Or?
That's just every other word was fucking this and those fuckers and fucking you guys. It was just like, it was, it was Cockney at its finest for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, no. And Boa played there, didn't he?
He was a general manager for us when we first started the team.
Okay.
So when did you guys start it? When did you guys start the club there?
This would have been 1994 or 5, somewhere in there. 93 or 95, somewhere in there. So, because I was coaching at UNCC at the time, and was doing the Hammerheads, and I mean it was again, as everybody said, it was lots of fun. It really was lots of fun because as you know, Alex, Wilmington, is a great place to do anything, right?
It really is.
It really is, and so it was lots of fun. But we were driving from Charlotte with Zach and Devin in the back of the car, every weekend. I mean, it just got too much. So, but it was a great experience, great fun.
So, Alex, share with us how you get to St. Louis. I mean, because this is going to be an expansion team. Usually the expansion teams struggle. Obviously, you guys did not. You took a different approach to it by having the players there almost a year ahead of the time. So, again, share with us how you got to St. Louis and what your role was, and how you got to your current role.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, like being in Wilmington, assistant coach, goalkeeper coach, UNC Wilmington, director of goalkeeping for the Hammerheads. Did this in total for 1.5 years. Enjoyed it a lot. Really, was it a college aspect? Was it a club coaching? Learned a lot and was fortunate that Aidan for UNC Wilmington and Carson for the Hammerheads gave me a lot of freedom to explore and just try things out. At this time, still I'm 26. New towards coaching, as I did obviously coaching before. I played soccer and a goalkeeper my whole life, but the way that I wanted to coach, I didn't really know by then. So again, fortunate, and credits to them that they gave me this freedom. However, then within the time, I still saw within the college game, within the club soccer game, it's not professional. And in a certain way, growing up in Germany, where your entire life and pathway you play to be a professional goalkeeper at some point, I still figured out, okay, I couldn't achieve it on the playing perspective, but can I maybe reach it on the coaching perspective? So within the time, I heard a lot about St. Louis and the project, obviously being interested into the American Pro game, and by coincidence, I think it was 2020 the winter, or maybe 2020 the winter, I was back home in Germany, and listened to a sports broadcaster that talked to Lutz Pfannstiel, the sporting director, and Lutz described what he wants to build in St. Louis and what he wants to do and who he's working with. So therefore, obviously, Lutz is a name that I knew growing up with, being a goalkeeper. He a goalkeeper, one I think the only player overall that ever has played on all FIFA continents as a goalkeeper. So obviously, I knew of him. Then he described that he's going to work closely with Bernhard Peters. Bernhard Peters was my academy director at Hoffenheim. In the time I played in Hoffenheim in the youth for 2 years when I was 14, 15. And then at some point when I was back in college in the United States during my summers, I always did 2 internships at Hamburg, at a Bundesliga club in Hamburg, where Bernhard was at some point the technical director and sports coordinator. So when they described their pathway of trying to build the best youth academy in North America, with the input of the German news system of Hoffenheim, Leipzig, and Hamburg, I was really fascinated by how do they actually want to do that? So by that time in December 2020, I obviously tried to find venues and how can I get in contact with Lutz Pfannstiel? And how can I just tell him like, hey, I'm by the way in the United States right now. He was in Hoffenheim at the same time I was there as well as international scout, and thought, okay, maybe there might be some like layover in a certain way. So somehow I found a way to actually get in contact with him. And then we had like multiple FaceTime Zoom calls with him and his team, with obviously Bernard. They're currently like in a consultancy role for us, and Bernard Peters and his team. And obviously with Lutz, and Lutz and I, like from the beginning, really got along well, like from a goalkeeper perspective to how do I see goalkeeping, how does he see goalkeeping. And actually, like a goalkeeper coach, he worked closely with Michael Rechner, who is now the goalkeeper coach at Bayern Munich, was my goalkeeper coach in Hoffenheim in the 2 years that I've played in the youth academy system. So therefore, I think like Micha really gave me a lot of input in goalkeeping. So therefore, I think we both got a really good understanding of each other. So Lutz and I. And then besides this kind of like venue or pathway towards it, John Heckworth, obviously currently like interim head coach and technical director at St. Louis City SC. He and Aidan were really close. Aidan Heaney from Wilmington, obviously then like it was in a certain way that Lutz then asked people in the United States, hey, like how did Alex do at Wilmington? Carson Porter came into play, and all of them I think gave me positive feedback towards it. So therefore that Lutz offered me the position as director of goalkeeping for the entire club in 2022, starting to be the goalkeeper coach for the second team, because in 2022 we didn't have the MLS team yet. So we started with the City 2 team in Next Pro, and then started in January 2022 as director of goalkeeping for the entire club, with being the goalkeeper coach for the second team in MLS Next Pro.
Well, if I may interject here,
Please.
I find that fascinating. First of all, this Lutz guy, I don't know anything about him, Alex. Obviously, you know him very well, but this guy's an outside the box thinker, just based on the book cover that I saw of him. Like you said, he played on 6 continents or something like that, right?
He did, yeah. I think he's the only player ever that played on all continents like that are part of the FIFA. So that's pretty impressive. Yeah.
So I have a funny story about him, and then I'm going to get into what you said. Was he was on an interview on ESPN, the ESPN football show or whatever it is, and Stuart Robson was part of the interviewing team, and Stuart Robson's this straight-laced, professional, polished guy, and Lutz was just firing these answers off the cuff, and you could see Robson's face, like looking at him like, who the is this guy, right? Type of thing. It was one of the funniest things I ever saw, where you saw professional polish and just like somebody being real in an interaction, and just the discomfort that Stuart Robson had with Lutz just being like forthcoming and speaking his mind and all of that. So I'll never forget that as long as I live. The other thing I want to say, and then I'll turn the floor over here, is I find it amazing that what you did as a 14 and 15-year-old left an impression on somebody to elevate you to the position that you are now, that it just shows that you never know who's watching and when they're watching, and just who you are and how you do things leaves an impression across decades. And unfortunately, if had I known that at 18, I'd be much better off now than I am.
Well, and it's interesting because and I'm sure you do it at White Gloves Goalkeeping now, Pat. You tell kids that, you tell kids, hey, you never know who's watching. Somebody might just be watching you at warmups, right? And we all know as goalkeeper guys, like you can tell if a kid is good in warmups, right? And you never know, like you say, Pat, you never know when that impression is gonna take seed, and the next thing you know, you're coaching goalkeepers in the MLS in St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say, good segue here. Alex didn't know what the 3-4 of us know as far as the rich tradition of St. Louis history. So, Alex, like, when did it, like, the light bulb go off? I mean, SLU itself, right there in your
Mhm.
backyard, is a fantastic tradition. A lot of players obviously played on the national teams. So give us like a story here that you finally said, I get it now.
Okay, interesting. Because obviously, like being from Germany, where like soccer, football, however you call it, like is the one sport. I came in, Lutz told me the same. They told me, Alex, like you can't imagine, but they're actually soccer crazy in the city. And I was like, Lutz, Americans soccer, is it actually that crazy or not? So he was like, you have to see it. You have to see it. And I was like, okay, let's actually see it. And obviously, like really cool, like obviously, like great guy, like Tim Kelly, who is currently like City 2 goalkeeper coach for us, and I work every day with as director of goalkeeping with him. And like we met the second day I started working there, and obviously he told me similar stories about like overall the goalkeepers that he worked with, and then obviously I was like, oh, like there's a Joe Willis, now Patrick Schulte, so then now some names that actually kind of like obviously like have a really good role in the league currently. So this was like then the second time I thought, okay. But then actually like the two moments where I fully noticed about like just like the in a positive way the craziness of St. Louis and soccer was our first ever next pro game. So like second team, the first pro team again back in St. Louis for some time after St. Louis FC. We played the first game at SLU, and I think they could have sold like 10 to 15,000 tickets, and SLU only has like 6,500 seats. And I was like, it's just a second team game in Germany. Like no one cares about a second team. Like if they actually get fans at all, like that's pretty cool. Yeah. So I was like, wow. And then we had our first game in the stadium at City Park against Leverkusen, end of 2022, when we already had Roman here, Edu Löwen, Klaus, already some of the MLS guys. And this stadium was packed. It was, I'm still more of a Celsius guy than a Fahrenheit guy, but I think it was like 27, 30 degrees or something. So like freezing cold in a November night in St. Louis, and the stadium was packed. And like everybody in St. Louis was just so excited to have a pro team back in St. Louis.
Yep.
In this stadium that's just built specifically for soccer, for this city.
Yep.
Then by the latest, like I knew St. Louis has like a huge soccer tradition in history, obviously. And I think they prove themselves worthy every day, because every single of our games is sold out. I think we have great fans, and I think just like the feedback that the league gives us, I think overall, like just like the positivity in the soccer aspect that St. Louis right now brings to this league is obviously really positive.
Evie, you're an old timer. Why was St. Louis such a hotbed in the 70s?
Well,
what was it about that place?
Little history lesson here, fellas.
Okay.
The 1950 USA team that beat England 1-0 in Brazil in the World Cup. We've all heard about that. Or we've all heard about that in the United States. Most of those players were from St. Louis.
I think 6, and the goalkeeper.
Yes, Mr. Borghi, the goalkeeper, who to this, I think he's passed on now. But to this day, if you were a goalkeeper or you were familiar with goalkeeping in and around St. Louis, his name was Frank Borghi. But if you were a goalkeeper, he was always Mr. Borghi, because he was the guy who shut out England in the 1950 World Cup. And the reason that St. Louis had soccer, established soccer way back when, is largely because of Anheuser-Busch and the brewing community. And of course, they had many German immigrants that migrated to St. Louis, and August Busch started Budweiser, and the whole thing. The other part of that is that St. Louis, because of where St. Louis, or because of the city was largely very Catholic, and the Catholic Church started a lot of Catholic youth soccer organizations, again playing off the heritage that had been established, with the German heritage, and it truly was in the United States sort of the soccer city, from the 1950s straight through, even today. I mean, it's known as sort of the birthplace of soccer in the United States. And, I can remember, Pat, and maybe you can too, Pat, but, when Greg and I were playing in college, man, if you got a guy from St. Louis, oh man, you know that guy.
Well,
Yeah, that guy was.
Oh yeah, no, I absolutely remember because we went to the McGuire Cup final and we lost to Scott Gallagher.
Yeah.
Okay, St. Louis club.
Yeah.
This I don't even know if they still exist.
They do. They're still like besides us now, obviously with the academy system, the biggest club in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next year, it's like all the guys that went to IU, Indiana, and played for Yegley, they were all St. Louis guys. And then I lost to them again as a freshman for Duke in the national final. It was like these fucking St. Louis guys, man. I if I can get away from them, I might actually be a champion one day.
Yeah.
But but it was like they were the real deal. So Evie or Alex or anybody, Greg, let me ask you this: was the hiring of Lutz, okay, or is that how you say it, Alex? Lutz? Is that
that's perfect? Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that was calculated, that they brought the German influence in to St. Louis based on what you're saying, Evie?
I think it certainly entered into the equation. You know, I don't think anybody said, you know, hey, we got to go get a German guy, but it was more like, you know what? If we could get a German guy, that'd be really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely would agree there, because obviously, like, just like Lutz's resume with like just like being at so many different places, obviously like his network is huge, and especially I think like to start a franchise and actually kind of like build something from nothing. He mentioned, he told us the story quite often, like he literally at someone was sitting he's from Bavaria in Germany, was sitting in his little village there in his house, and they're like, I had a white piece of paper, and then, okay, let's start a soccer club in the United States. Obviously, like heavily influenced by like ownership by the Taylor family and like their family values and what they wanted to represent with the city. But yeah, it's impressive, obviously, kind of like what they have achieved just like in a short time of like existence. But I think just Lutz was like the ideal fit for it, with like again network connections, like his aspect behind really he cares a lot about the academy system and just like a pathway towards. He's not just first team, forget about the rest. He actually is like used to kind of like build a club from like the ground towards, okay, like what has a grassroots program look like? What does a community program look like? How do we then incorporate this into academy system? Next pro, so City 2, pro pathway, and then actually like going all the way. So
yeah.
All right. So Alex, we do some crazy things on this show sometimes with surprise guests. EV, we're going to pull one on you as well.
Okay.
So, Ryan, do your thing. We have Aidan Heaney in the house tonight.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Hey,
that's amazing.
Evie, when Pat Johnston reached out to me and said, "Hey, listen, we really need you to come on to boost our ratings," I was so happy to take the call and you know and help boost the our subscriptions for the Old Goalies. The Old Goalies.
Are your kids watching?
No, you know, I finally got Harry to sleep, so I'm free. I'm free for the next hour.
All right. Well, so you really didn't boost our audience much, but you know, I figured we went up 5 people. All right.
That's right. Hey.
Thanks, Aidan.
Thanks for joining us, pal.
Yeah,
it's great. It's great. When I heard Alex was on, and I was like, well, you know, this is probably the best chance I'll get to speak to Alex. He's tough to get a hold of these days, you know. So I'm
like Aidan texted me like 3 or 4 weeks ago and called me. It's like, Aidan, like, I'm sorry, it's actually a lot right now. I have to call you back.
So Aidan, I know I'm interested in this next answer. I got a feeling EV might too. 2 coaches out of 130 emails, you were one who answered. What made you answer it at that time?
For tonight?
No.
No,
said,
like remember when I reached out to you? Like
I
sent emails to like over 100 coaches.
I didn't hear the initial part of the story. I tell you, it's funny, guys. I mean, you know, you guys know better than I do, but when you see somebody's resume and then you don't know the person, right? And then I think you know I was really intrigued by Alex's background, of course, and And when he came down and met with us, and you meet somebody, you just have a connection right away and feel like, this guy would be really fantastic for us. And that's how it proved. I think there's you have a lot of guys these days who get into the business of soccer, and they say they work hard, but they don't really work hard. And in our program here, you gotta get your hands dirty, and you got to put the hours in. And Alex is one of those guys that was just whatever we needed, and it was just a phenomenal addition to the program, honestly. So I'm super happy for you, Alex. The way things are progressing for you, and what you've been able to do since you left UNCW is tremendous. So I'm super proud and super happy for you, and love to follow St. Louis and see how you're doing every week.
Thank you so much. Means a lot.
Alex mentioned John Hackworth contacting you. What was that conversation like, knowing that there was a lot at stake for this young man's future?
Yeah, it's like you always know that when you got somebody who's really, really good, right? You'd love to have them stay as long as you can. But when opportunities arise, and you want to help people along like that, I think you feel that you appreciate the work that they've put in, and you don't want to hold anybody back. And in Alex's case, it was the connection I had with Hack, and it was funny. He came up and did a camp, and I got a chance to meet with Alex then, and kind of start that ball rolling there as well. But I gotta say, Alex did a lot of the legwork, and he obviously did really well on the interview process with St. Louis to be able to get hired himself. So we certainly that connection with Hack was important, but it wasn't the main thing and the main reason he got the job.
Yeah, Alex, what would you say you took away from your time working under Aidan Heaney, as far as whatever you want to talk about, on the field and off the field?
Especially for me, like a lot of things from both sides. But I think actually like on and off the field combines, because I think the way that Aidan treats his family, he treats his players. So actually like the way that Aidan is a human being, as a father and like as a husband, like with his family, I think he actually is the same way with his players. Like loving and caring, but demanding. And I think like the way that he actually like combines both, and like, because I think a lot of people are like, they have their on the field, they have their off the field, but I think Aidan actually in a certain way like is like pretty even in both. And the way he just like approaches and like he leads a team, and like you always talk about like role models, and I think really like the players see Aidan as a role model. And I think at some point, like if you get to a stage where you're as a coach, where actually your players look up to you in a positive way, not just because Aidan played MLS, but because Aidan actually like treats them the way they want to be treated. I think that was some of the key points that I took away from like the time working with Aidan in UNC Wilmington.
Yeah, I want to get into this a little bit. We'll talk about the 3 pillars of goalkeeping that you've designed, but you talk about some stats which you use, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. And then, would it relate to the college game? So you have XG, which stands for expected goals, and then you have post shot expected goals, PSXG. So explain all this Chinese stuff to everybody.
No, absolutely. So obviously, so XG is just an expected goals, basically like an algorithm that creates a value, like how likely is the ball to go in goal from a certain position. So post-shot expected goals prevented, there are like so many different providers right now. They basically calculate the value of the XG moments that actually end up on target or on goal. Because obviously you could have a huge chance with a high XG, but the striker misses the target. So technically the goalkeeper didn't do anything. Maybe his positioning interfered with it, but whatever. So he didn't actually do anything. So post-shot expected goals is actually what ends up on goal. So in a certain way, it can describe, okay, like there's a really high XG that ends up on goal. Let's say like that ends up in the upper 90 of like the right angle of the goal, and the goalkeeper saves it. So it would have been a high likelihood of going in, but the goalkeeper prevented it. What then in a certain way should say, okay, the goalkeeper did a good job in his action. Or the shot comes from like 60 yards away. It's a low XG. The ball actually comes central on goal. So like the likelihood of it going in is actually like really low, but it goes in. What then maybe should show you, okay, the goalkeeper should have done better. So I hope that's like a really easy, efficient way of like describing it.
Aidan, do you feel this is a stat that you might use?
Yes. I don't use it now, so I can't say that I do. That wouldn't be fair. But we use Y Scout, so we get the stats back where you're already getting that information. So it's not like we're having to put in some algorithm ourselves. So it's that stuff it spits out to you. So you do look at that stuff and try and figure out, well, how efficient is the goalkeeper being, right? And is he how many saves is he actually making a game, and the high percentage saves. I think I had some really good goalkeeper trainers, with Evie being the best one, and Evie, I think part of our philosophy was goalkeepers, the really high level goalkeepers, are the ones who make the saves they're supposed to make, right? The ones that are on frame and close to you. And then the really high level ones are the ones who give up fewer rebounds, and hold a lot of balls or deflect a lot of balls without giving up their second chance opportunity. So I'm big on that, as far as trying to measure that a little bit and see, going through the film, and well, he made the save, but did it lead to a second chance? And we try and work on limiting those moments.
Interesting philosophies. Let's talk a little bit about Alex, your three pillars of goalkeeping. First, I'll describe what they are, and then I'm curious how you developed them, as far as your philosophies here. So the first is goal defending and shot stopping. The second is space defending and defending inside and outside the box. And the third is distribution and progressing into the attack. So what made you correlate all these, and in your opinion, has it been successful working with Roman using this?
So obviously, when I told you guys earlier, like when I started in Wilmington, like it was like brand new to coaching, like still had to try out a lot. And Aidan, I just mentioned, I'm really thankful that you gave me a lot of like freedom and flexibility to actually do things and like try myself out. So at some point, obviously, I thought like, okay, like when I was a goalkeeper, what did I do? When the coaches that I had, what did they do with me? And obviously, like some parts of these pillars are like still like I think really close towards the Hoffenheim way, or like how Michael Rechner kind of like is doing it. So I definitely think kind of like his influence kind of led me into that. So obviously, like I kind of like went through this, like, okay, like what situations do the goalkeeper actually gonna have in a game situation? So like for me, it's always like everything what I do in training, I hope that there's a correlation to the game, because like if I do something in a training what has no place in the game, for me, like it's not that useful. So and then obviously I went for like, okay, like what goal defending actions does a goalkeeper have? So like then kind of like categorize this between like goal defending in basic techniques, 1v1 behaviors, and lateral push or lateral explosion when like there's really like an extended dive. Space defending, you mentioned obviously inside and outside the box. Inside the box is everything where the goalkeeper actually can use their hands. Outside the box is for me like a category where like then it's space defending outside the 18, so like most likely sweeping moments, like how connected are you to your backline on like a lateral and vertical way. And then in distribution, they're like I added now kind of like the verbiage and vocabulary that we use at St. Louis, like with build out, it's everything like from a static ball, and build up, it's more of the run of play. And obviously like there are always then like certain techniques and like behaviors within these things. I'm a huge fan of combining these pillars within my training sessions, because I think it creates a certain form of like complexity, and I hope to create situations that my goalkeeper is going to see within the game. So far, I would say it works well with Roman. Obviously, knowing that Roman is a high quality goalkeeper when he came to St. Louis, like I'm not praising myself nor claiming myself that I made Roman Burki, because I definitely did not. Roman came to St. Louis with 32, is now 34. So Roman is 4 years older than I am. So Roman came being a high quality goalkeeper. So I think it was really important from my perspective. How do I approach Roman? Because like Roman played at a way higher level than I ever did. I have never played Champions League. I never even played really pro soccer in Germany. So like from the beginning, like I think we had these good conversations. So like when I started here in February 2022, like, and we knew that Roman might come to us, like we started having these FaceTime calls, just to get to know each other, get a little bit a better idea of each other's like goalkeeping philosophy, like what is he like in training, what he thinks about certain situations. We talked about goals that he conceded or goals or moments within the game. And then I think we both got a really good understanding of like, okay, like what human being is Roman Bürki and what human being is AleLangerer. And I think there we kind of like matched pretty quickly of like, okay, we both are pretty open human beings towards new things. We had a lot of discussions about like, hey, like, yes, I'm the coach, and like he wants me to be the coach and he wants me to be in charge, but he wants to be heard and kind of like his opinion. And I think from this moment straight away, we kind of like found a really good way of like, I ask him questions and feedback about my sessions. He gives me this input, but then he's totally open to try out new things. What I was really surprised in a positive way about. And I think just like right now, like working now with him for, I think close to 2 years or over 2 years, really close relation with him. I think really like build on trust, and just I think we both together earned this trust, that like he trusts me as his goalkeeper coach and I obviously trust him as my goalkeeper. And I would say so far pretty successful. Hopefully we can keep this up.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know, we got one last question before I give it back to Evie and Pat at headquarters. We're coming on about an hour, and I think we're trying to break a record here, by the way. How much, and this is from Ryan, which I like this question. How much does coaching someone like Roman change you as a coach?
That's a good question. I like that a lot. So overall, being a young coach, I'm obviously like would be interested to kind of like hear Aidan's philosophy on this one. I have the feeling when you coach different players, you have to change as a coach. I don't think you can just coach it one way to each player that you have. I think like even for me to coach Roman as a number one, to coach Ben Lund as number two, and to coach Kristen number three, is totally different. Obviously now back to the question, like it changed me in a certain way that I can just work with such a high level of goalkeeping, that even I in a certain way can like come up and try to create sessions that I think are quite complex in certain ways, but like his skill set allows us to actually work on these things. Because like, let's say we have like combining a basic catch with a lateral push across and like a goal kick, for example, like just making this up right now. He's so good in each individual execution that we actually can kind of like get us in a really smooth rhythm towards it and be like game realistic. And I think just allows me in a certain way to create like new different sessions every day. And like he is like proactive and kind of like trying them out, giving me feedback towards it. So I think this was a huge impact towards us. And then on the other end, it showed me in a certain way, how do you approach a player with that quality? Like when is the moment to maybe criticize in a certain way? When is the moment to kind of like be really positive? And when is the moment to maybe just leave him alone? I think that's a really interesting one that I actually didn't experience before. Like that a player of that quality knows when he needs something, and he usually is going to tell you that. So like I think a lot of coaches try to do too much. I think this was me before Roman. I think with Roman, I learned in a certain way, be really clear my message, be really clear my setup and what I want to achieve, be really open with him. But that's going to be enough. That's going to be good enough to prepare him the best way, to perform the best way for him possible. Where I think before I thought I had to control every single thing, and I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to ask this question, and then do this again. Where I think I kind of like, I'm more efficient and effective right now in my coaching than I have been before. I think that's just like a key change.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being our guest. Very, very interesting journey. Aidan, thank you so much for surprising EV. Pat, thank you for putting them up to it.
Hey, before we go, I want to tell an Aidan Heaney story.
All right.
Is it a joke?
Only one EV? Come on. You got more.
This
It's a PG show, Evie. It's a PG show. I just want to make sure you know that.
No, it's not, Aidan. No, it's not.
It absolutely is not a PG show.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing about this show that's ever been PG, unfortunately.
Yeah, as I told you guys earlier in the show, when the MLS first started, Marcia was actually Aidan's agent, and of course, she was Mark Dodd's agent. She had 2 or 3 guys, and I can remember her saying one night she'd been talking to New England and trying to get that extra $50 for Aidan. But I can remember, her getting off the phone with him and saying, "I hope Zach and Devin become men like Aidan Heaney."
Wow.
And well, they're not there yet, but they're as a father, and I've said that many times to a lot of people, is when you have a player who as Alex was saying, is a good man on the field and a great man off the field. That's what you want, and so that's something that I've always remembered about Aidan, and we're all goalkeepers. We all work hard. That's all part and parcel of the position. But that was something that has always stuck with me about Aidan Heaney. And I think he talks the talk, he walks the walk, and that's great. And the other part I will say, Bone, is, I've been very lucky because I've been able to coach Aidan Heaney. I've been able to coach Pat Johnston. I've been able to coach a lot of guys who have gone on to be successful, but at the same time, they've gone on to be great guys. And that, to me, that's the most important thing. Because really and truly, when you boil it down, at the end of the day, it's great to be a professional player. It's great to be a professional coach. But at the end of the day, at the end of your life, it's a job, right? It's a great job. Don't get me wrong. It's a better job than working in a factory, but it's a job. And the important thing is the impression that you leave on people's lives.
Wow. All right, Ryan. Boy, that's a
well
wrap.
spoken. And Aidan, I just want to say I'm flattered to be thrown in that category with you in any way, shape, or form, because I don't deserve it near as much as you do. You are a great guy, and Alex, you're cut right of the same cloth, and I'm grateful to be able to get you guys on. And while you're half my age, you're right there in wisdom and everything, and it's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, it's been, and thank you for taking the time to join us, Alex. Aidan, always great to see you.
You too, bud. Love you, Evie. Thanks for everyone's help, guys.
Thanks for the ratings, Aidan. Thank you.
Hey, you're just going to see that dial just going to keep going now, Pat. It's just going to
Yeah, exactly.
All right, thanks, guys.
Brian, thanks for producing all this, fellas. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll get everybody back together on the line again soon.
Good
luck. Take care, guys.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks for watching and listening to the 3 Old Goalies podcast. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast platform or subscribe to our YouTube channel. 3 Old Goalies is available on Instagram and on Twitter. Can't get enough? Check us out on www.3oldgoalies.com.